let's get on with fertilization. We'll talk about that. And Coach, we have a little fertilization program out here. We talked about that, when to fertilize, with strength, and we know that because we got results back from a soil test that we sent to Mississippi State, and it came back and told us we needed a lot of nitrogen, mostly. But we have, and again, I'm not picking on any one maker of chemicals or fertilizers. These are called little singles, and you can take this and just drop it in your water bucket and go about your business rather than sit there and measure things. If you have large areas that you want to fertilize, and again, you can hook this up to your hose. The fertilizer is already in here, and you can spray large areas using a spray like this. Or if you just want to go and say you have a house plant somewhere, you can take these little beads. I don't know if you can see them, Coach. These are solids. And they will dissolve when rainwater hits them. So it is a continuous, but if it doesn't rain for 3 or 4 weeks, guess what? These are still sitting there. And I noticed the last time I was out here, I think it was the rooster, trying to eat some of our solid fertilizer we put out.
It sure was. Thought it was feed.
Again, these are just regular pruners you buy at any of the stores. Again, get yourself a good pair of pruners. These are called scissor pruners, sharp here and sharp down here. There's another set of pruners called anvil pruners. It's just a solid piece, a flat piece, and this sharp one comes down to the flat part. So you don't want to get the anvil ones because they have a tendency.
I think that this is the one that you're referring to.
No, these are scissors.
Oh,
these are scissors. These are perfect. You want to keep them sharp. I have a sharpening stone in my truck. I always want a sharp blade because when you cut a plant, which I'm not going to do, but when you cut a plant, you want a nice clean cut. You don't want a ragged tear because that will invite a disease, whether it's bacteria, viral, or a fungal disease. On top of that, one of the things that we're probably going to talk about in a later session is sanitation. I know I'm going over off the board, but I got a passion and I can't control it. You want to keep your shears clean. In other words, if I go from this plant here to this plant here to that plant here and then come over here and start trimming, I could transfer a disease from that plant to this plant. Now I got myself what they call a mess. Rubbing alcohol. Again, here's the container. Got this at a local store here. You see it says 70% on it. That's the strength of rubbing alcohol you want to get, to 70. I think they come down like at 30s, 25s. You want to get some really good stuff. 70% of this liquid is isopropyl alcohol. You don't want to drink it either. So you fill up a spray bottle. I keep that with me. I have it sharp, real sharp. I spray isopropyl alcohol and just let it air dry a little bit. That's going to kill viruses, bacteria, fungus, so forth. Now I used to use a Clorox solution, like 1 part Clorox, 9 parts water, something to that ratio. I find that Clorox, being an oxidizer, have a tendency to start rusting the steel and the metal in the shears here. So it's been also recommended by other people, other gardeners, to use isopropyl alcohol. Again, sanitation. And one of the professors who teaches plant pathology, studies plant diseases at Mississippi State, Dr. Alan Henn, who I love, he says, you'll never know how many plants you saved by just spraying. Understanding the importance of sanitation. You'll never know how many plants you saved by spraying these shears and keeping a nice cut edge, a sharp edge.
It's like washing your hands every time you go outside.
Washing your hands, especially nowadays, we gotta wash our hands, we gotta wear our masks and so forth. But folks, let's keep doing it till the governor, Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves says it's okay. And that's just day by day, we'll get through this, okay? One of the best things, probably the most important thing in gardening, this right here. Folks, the summer, as you know, is brutal. Don't drink water after you pass out and you're laying on the ground. It's too late. You want to drink water, hydrate yourself before you go out into this sun, which I was doing this morning. Because I'm susceptible. That's probably Hollywood right now, Colin. I'm just gonna let that ring. Okay. Let's talk about some ways we can kill weeds. Well, probably the best way is organically. You go out there and pull them. If you let, like Coach, when you inherited these gardens, you inherited a bunch of weeds. So you had to sit there and start pulling them. That's the way you do it. You keep up with your weeding. You don't have to worry about coming out here and using chemicals. Okay? This one here is a brush killer. Now, I can take a chemical that's used for weeds and put it on brush, say honeysuckle vines, shrubs, the woody plants, and it's not going to do anything. This has a certain chemical in here, I believe it's called triclopyr, and it's specifically designed to get into that bush and travel, and that's called systemic. We're going to talk about another systemic, except it's a insect killer. So we talk about that one there. Now let's talk about some of the other chemicals that I do use. This one here is what they call a group of insecticides called pyrethroids. We're mimicking the chemicals that we get out of chrysanthemums, believe it or not. And that's called pyrethrum. That's organic insecticide. This is mimicked after that, but it's called a pyrethroid, and it's made by a company called Seven. We know Seven Dust in the past, and Seven Dust had the chemical over there was called carbol. This is called, get this folks, get a pencil, zeta cypermethrin. You'll say, what? Zeta cypermethrin. It will kill probably, it says here, 500 different types of insects. But again, bees don't like that. So what do? I want to kill the insects because they're killing all my plants. But if you study the life cycle of the daily cycle of a bee, they come out during the day, and by the time the sun's setting, and this is not always true now, folks, most of them go back to the hive with all the nectar, and they're going to start making honey. So if you are going to spray with any chemical, go out there in the evenings, right before sunset. Now I know a lot of us don't have time, and that's when we get crazy. We come out here with our pump-up sprayers and just start spraying. If you have to spray, you see those beautiful flowers over there, those squash flowers? Coach, over there, and big yellow ones over there. I think that's squash, maybe something else. But if you're going to spray, don't spray the flower. That's where the bee's going. The bee's not going to eat the leaf. It's going to get to that flower. So we got to be very careful what we spray, when we spray. Here's another insecticide that I've used in the past to spray. It's called spinosad. Spinosad is made up of 2 different bacteria that are in your soil right now. Spinosad A, spinosad D. When it gets inside, especially caterpillars, it will kill fire ants. When it gets inside, it starts eating their digestive tract. It stops the nervous system. It just freezes up. They can't get food, and they just eventually die. So that's another one there. Let's go over here and take a look at this one. What is this one? Madison County people, listen up. We have a insect impact due to what we call crepe myrtle bark scale. It's due to scale. It's an insect. If you have a crepe myrtle, that's why I call it crepe myrtle bark scale. You see it on the bark. What these little bugs are doing is that in the springtime, when the sugars are being made from the leaves during photosynthesis, they're there to get their fair share of that sugar as it travels down underneath that bark. So what these things do, they get on there and they start eating it, and if that tree is 20 feet tall, you can't get to it. So this material here is called a soil drench. You mix it up with water and you pour it around your tree, and there's a publication on the Mississippi State Extension website, and I'm going to write that down for you right now before I forget, Coach. Extension MS State STATE.edu. Go in there and type, when you get to the cover page, type in under where it says search crepe myrtle bark squirrel. There is a beautiful publication, I believe it's by Dr. Blake Layton, who's the entomologist there, and it'll tell you how to go about how much of this chemical to put with water. So again, if that's our soil, and there I am standing there, and the roots are down here, and the tree comes up like that, then we have branches, we got all these leaves on it, and the scale is probably going to be up high where the wood is tender, it's brand new and it's very soft. You take your drench, you put it in on the ground around the tree, let it soak in. It's going to come up the root, and it's going to go up the branch, and it's going to keep moving around. And when that scale bites into that and says, "Boy, was that good!" all of a sudden it says, "Man, I feel sleepy. I feel like I'm going to die." That's exactly what happens. They're going to die. And that's called a soil drench. And again, particularly in Madison County, crepe myrtle bark squirrel. Here's another thing. Mosquito spray. God knows. Last year I was down in Central Jackson at a garden. I got bit so bad, but these turned into knots. They weren't itching, they just turned into knots. I thought I had some kind of disease. Went to the dermatologist who checks on that cancer right there, and he said, these are gnats. And he gave me something to take. And if I would have had this on, now sometimes gnats won't even, they don't care what you got on, they're still gonna bite you. But nevertheless, the mosquitoes are out there. If you wear a long sleeve shirt, wasp and hornet killer. You may not know it now. Give it a couple of weeks. You'll be walking around here and there's a wasp nest up in that trellis right
They're quick.
there. You better have this in there because
They're very quick.
those wasps are going to keep you from gardening.
That's right.
So I'm going to do my job and knock them down. This one here.
And it's important to have there's a big difference between these type of insects, in this case the wasps, and your typical bee, your bee that's coming to get some nectar and to also help with the pollinators. So it's one thing that I tell kids here at the school is that if they see a bee, their reaction is to try to stomp it, and we need to understand that we need to coexist. If there's a wasp nest in a place that you don't go to, let it be. If it's in a place that you are going to be frequently going to, like for instance our trellis under where we have cucumbers and tomatoes, we'll probably spray it.
Exactly. Again, if we're going to be out here spraying, we need to be aware of the daily cycle of a bee, what they do during the day, what time do they get up, what time do they start foraging for that nectar. And we need to be aware of that, and we don't want to spray. Now, while I'm talking about the time of the day, I've done this twice already, last year and this year. I would get an insecticide and I'd spray my plants, just like your plants. Same type, squash, tomatoes. I'd spray it. If the temperature gets up by 85 degrees, that insecticide or that fungicide could burn those leaves. And I noticed it yesterday. I went out there and said, oh man, I didn't think it was 85 degrees. But when it starts getting warm outside in the 80s, don't spray. Either spray first thing early in the morning at dawn, or later on in the evening to protect those bees. Now we talked about insects, we talked about bacteria a little bit. There are conditions in which these plants can get fungus. Well, the first thing you want to do is when you go to a nursery, look on the label and it'll say resistant to Fusarium, which is a fungus. So they make plants that are resistant. Does that mean they can't get it? Yes, they still can, but they're bred to sort of like resist it. Buy yourself a healthy plant. That keeps fungus or bacteria or anything harming that plant. It makes it healthier. It's like they're eating their own vegetables. Fungus. That's what happens when you have a lot of water. We talked about that this morning, Coach. We want to make sure we water a certain time of day, preferably early in the morning, so that the sun has time to evaporate the water if it's got on the leaf. If we have cool nights and we come home in the evening and we water with a hose, it gets on the leaf. And then the dew comes. We have cool nights, moisture, it condensates on the leaf. So now I got not only water, I got the dew, which is water on the leaf. If it stays on there 7, 8, 9 hours wet, that's perfect for fungus to attack it. Now, I have 2 funguses here, fungicides. One is a protectant. It's like spraying it, and it's like it gets on the leaf, but that's as far as it goes. And these protectants, this one here, by the way, is a fungicide called chlorothalonil. It gets on, it's like wearing a raincoat in the wintertime or during the rainstorm. It keeps you dry. It'll coat the leaf and keep that fungal spore landing on there and taking a foothold. This one here is called a penetrant. And this one here, this is chlorothalonil. This one here is propiconazole. And it's a penetrant. It's going to get down in that leaf and start whooping up on the fungus that went inside. Now, it says it's a systemic fungicide, meaning it's going to move throughout the plant to some degree. It may not completely go all the way around. The word is translocate. It'll go from here, maybe down to there, or it can go all the way around like the word systemic means. Okay, fire ants. Oh my gosh. Oh, by the way, this here is a spray, my spray can, and I got it at a local nursery, and it's a mixture of a fungicide, chlorothalonil, and an insecticide, spinosad. Okay? And when I mix them together at the right amounts, it's called a tank mix. So rather than spray it with a fungicide, then come back and spray it with an insecticide, I mixed them together, and I just do it one time. So again, read the labels, folks. Fire ants, hate them. By the way, Coach, this is one of those sprayers. Invest in the money. Again, this one's Scott, and again, I'm not promoting Scott's, but it's a lot better than some of these. If you have a small garden, you can use these. But if it's anything with a lot of area, you probably want to do that, or you can go as far as getting a backpack. Fire ants. This one here, I'm trying to think, I can't even see the active ingredient. Permethrin. Permethrin is, I believe, is a pyrethroid, just like that one and this one here. It belongs to the same group. It's an insecticide, and of course the ants will take it down into their ant hill, the hive, and feed it to the queen. And now we can kill fire ants, Coach, easily. This one here says the active ingredient is spinosad. That's in one of these little containers. Spinosad, liquid form. This is solid form. Put these granules out, they take it down, and what spinosad does, it's an insecticide. But again, it's 2 bacteria. It'll go in there and they'll eat it. And you know, an ant, a fire ant especially, has that, what they call an exoskeleton. Its skeleton is outside the body. It starts dissolving that. And spinosad also gets, if they ingest it, it gets in there and it just shuts down their digestive system and they starve. Now, one way we can do this is make yourself, use borax, 20 multein borax, mix it with some sugar, and I'm looking for my container that I brought out here.
The Tupperware?
Yes.
It fell on the ground.
Once I get my mixture of borax and sugar, I'll put it in here, Coach, but I don't know if you can see.
I do. I see
there's certain holes
punctures,
in here.
Yes.
And there's holes in the top for the ants to get in. So you put it in there, fill it about halfway, and since the holes are up a little bit, I will bury that almost to the hole. So in
let them come.
The ant be walking around and falls into the hole. That's how easy it is for them. Let them eat it, take it back down to the hive, and it'll kill the ants.
Fantastic. That's
So
an easy way.
I would like to give you some of this borax, and you just need sugar. You can buy these at any hardware store.
That's a very
especially
neat.
Lowe's or any Tupperware area, Walmart, and get those. So, again, one last thing I want to talk about. It's called diatomaceous earth. Diatomaceous earth was little bitty animals, sea life that were in the oceans once upon a time, and when their shell was based out of silica, which is glass. So when they died, they all died on the seafloor, and today we can mine that in areas where that seafloor was brought up to the surface, and this is especially designed for things like slugs that will eat your cantaloupe. But what they try to do is they get under the leaf. The slugs are not, animals are not stupid. Around noontime, when that sun is baking down, they're under that leaf in the shade, just waiting for the sun to cool off, and they'll come back out and start eating those leaves again. And they can do a bunch of damage to where it kills the crop. So, but when this powder, it's not harmful to us, folks, and I talked about that, I think, last week. But you put it on the ground around the plant, and those little slug larvae, those little caterpillars crawl, and it cuts them, and then they bleed out their liquids inside, and they die. So again, Coach, let me put my Hollywood glasses on. This is my last shot with Hollywood.
Well, this is a wealth of knowledge. A wealth of knowledge. We truly appreciate your time, your knowledge, your expertise, your passion, because this is very important for us, because a lot of times we want to start a garden, but we really don't know how to do it. Yes, you can go to the nursery and support your local nursery, and you can buy the plants already, the seedlings, the plants ready, and just put them in your soil. But a lot of times you need to understand, is your soil ready for that? And if it's not growing, why? Because there's always a why, and there are things that you can do to repair your soil and take care of your soil. I was reading this article that made a statement that we spend a lot of energy, time, and capital money in plants, but we don't spend a lot of energy, time on taking care of the soil.
As you mentioned, you want to prepare the soil ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the fall, start getting everything ready. Incorporate your organics in the bugs, the natural bacteria in the soil, and the bugs will start breaking down those organics, the carbon, the ones that have carbon in, the wood. And you want to do that ahead of time. You don't want to do it the day you want. You don't want to go outside and say, where do I want to put my garden? Say, I'm off this week, so I got to do everything at one time. It's not going to happen, folks. But again, Coach, if you can zoom in here, the important things: extension.mississippistate.msstate.edu. Know your extension agents here in Central Mississippi. These are gone to Mississippi State for their degrees. Alcorn State down there south of Natchez, Fort Gibson area. It's a big ag school also. So, and I know several agents who graduated from Alcorn State. In Mississippi, in Central Mississippi, your agent in Madison County is Ty Jones, who you know.
Ty is a good friend of our program.
Ty is a fantastic person, and he'll stop what he's doing. He'll come out there and look at your tree if it's diseased, or your plants, or help you with the grass, so forth. Another great guy is in Rankin County. Doug Carter is your extension agent, and they're in Brandon on Marquette Road. And in Hinds County, it's Kyle Lewis, and he's out of the Raymond office. Any one of those great guys. And there's also a lady here in Central Mississippi horticulturist. She has a wide range of things she does, large area, and her name is Donna Balich. She's also a Mississippi State grad.
Miss Donna's been here too. She's been very helpful.
And what a fantastic lady. I look up to all of those because every time I talk to them, I learn something. But folks, get on extension.msstate.edu, type in fungus. It's going to bring up the professors who focus on fungus. Dr. Alan Henn, Dr. Rebecca Melanson out of the Raymond office. Great guy, Dr. Christian Stevenson out of Hancock County, Bay St. Louis, another person. Get on the website, ask people, ask them, when are you going to have something on the internet, on YouTube, so I can watch these things and learn how to make a good soil. Again, if anybody has a question about gardening, there's my email address, and try not to call my cell phone number. I want to keep it open for an agent from Hollywood. Well, please call me, do whatever you need to do.
Well, John, this has been fantastic. I foresee that we'll do renditions of these videos as we come along, and just to share knowledge, passion, and also cover areas of the growth. I know it's a spring, as you were stating, it's warm already, but as we go into summer where we're not getting as much rain as we're getting now, what do you have to do to your garden? So we'll talk about those things as we come along.
Exactly. We're in that season now. The garden's here, everything's growing up. We gotta be vigilant. We gotta make daily observations. When you have a garden at home, vegetable garden or a flower garden, every day. Try to do it the same time of day. If you work around 5:30, 6 o'clock when you're home, go out and just take a walk through. Is there anything different? Does one of the plants look yellow versus dark green?
Yes, you can see so many things. You can prevent so many diseases, or probably take care of any type of pest early.
Well, Coach, I just want to present this on behalf of gardeners everywhere. It's a group of daffodil bulbs.
Oh my, beautiful!
You and the students can plant them. I don't believe they're going to flower. You plant them like in the fall, and I think next fall,
spring.
But then about a year and a half after you plant them, these things should be
great. So we need those. We need those pollinators. We'll be planting them in the beds that we have designated for flowers. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
Alrighty. Well, another day at the Manza Upper Elementary Junior Master Garden. And stay tuned for future videos, and like our page, subscribe to our page to get announcements when we publish these videos.
Okay, one more thing, Coach. Tom Cruise. Picture me a lot handsome, better looking, a lot of hair. I got my Tom Cruise glasses.